What if I told you that one of the most potent cognitive enhancers and, cardiovascular defenders on the planet isn't actually synthesized in some high-tech lab?
Right, it's not some top secret formula.
Exactly. It doesn't require a prescription, and it's literally sitting right now in the produce aisle of your local grocery store for, like, maybe $4.
It completely upends our modern bias, I think. We've been so conditioned to believe that optimizing a complex machine like the human body requires this highly engineered, super complex
Oh,
intervention.
totally. We want the 12-step protocols. We want the proprietary
All
compounds.
right, we want to see the blueprints. But the stack of sources we're diving into today, it really just throws that expectation entirely out the window.
It really does. So today, we are taking a shortcut to being well-informed about a tiny everyday item that most of us just view as, a simple snack.
Just something you toss in a lunchbox.
Yeah, exactly. But it secretly holds legendary, scientifically backed superfood status. We're talking about the blueberry.
The humble blueberry.
The humble blueberry. Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Our mission today is to unpack the surprisingly massive biological impact blueberries have on the human body.
And we're moving way beyond those generic health blog platitudes, too.
Oh, way beyond. We're going to examine the specific cellular mechanics of their nutritional profile, the rare way they interact with your brain, and their direct impact on cardiovascular longevity.
Because when you look past the surface and actually dive into the biochemistry of what happens when you consume them, you realize you're looking at a microscopic masterclass in cellular defense.
A masterclass. I love that.
It really is. Nature has essentially done all the heavy lifting for us here.
So let's start by looking at the most obvious physical trait of the blueberry, because our sources indicate that this surface-level appearance is actually the key to this whole biological engine.
Yeah, it's not just cosmetic.
Right, I'm talking about the color. Blueberries get that deep, opaque blue-purple hue from a class of pigments called anthocyanins,
And anthocyanins are really where this entire conversation has to begin. They're a specific type of flavonoid.
which is basically a broad category of phytochemicals found in plants, right?
Exactly. And in the plant itself, these pigments act almost like a natural sunscreen. They absorb UV light and protect the plant from environmental stress.
Okay, so it's a defense mechanism for the berry.
Yeah, but when we consume them, their role shifts. They start combating what we call oxidative stress in the human body.
Okay, let's unpack this mechanism for a second, because oxidative stress is one of those terms that gets thrown around so much in wellness circles that it almost loses its meaning.
Oh, absolutely. It becomes a buzzword.
Yeah, a total buzzword. We often hear it vaguely described as like wear and tear, but I want to elevate the science here for you listening.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about what is actually happening at a molecular level with free radicals. Because we aren't just talking about tiny vandals running around causing damage, are we?
No, not at all. We are talking about a very specific transaction of electrons.
Okay, so break that down for us.
Well, that's the core of it. A free radical is, by definition, a highly unstable molecule. And it's unstable because it's missing an electron in its outer shell.
And in chemistry, instability drives frantic behavior, right?
Precisely. That free radical is desperate to stabilize itself, so it just roams around your body and forcibly steals an electron from the nearest healthy cell.
Wow.
Yeah, whether that cell's in your skin, your blood vessels, or even your DNA.
And that theft damages the healthy cell.
Exactly.
So if that happens millions of times over, that cumulative structural degradation, that is the literal biological definition of cellular aging.
You nailed it. That is exactly what aging is at a cellular level.
Okay, so where do the blueberries come in?
Well, this is where the unique molecular structure of those anthocyanins comes into play. Anthocyanins are powerful electron donors.
Electron donor.
Yeah. When they encounter a frantic electron-seeking free radical, they actually willingly hand over one of their own electrons.
Wait, willingly. But doesn't that make the anthocyanin unstable then?
And that is the crucial distinction. That's the magic of it. Most molecules, if they lose an electron, they just become new free radicals.
Right, which would just create a giant chain reaction.
Exactly. But anthocyanins have this unique multi-ring chemical structure that allows them to absorb that loss and just remain completely stable.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they neutralize the threat, break the chain reaction of oxidative damage, and essentially preserve the integrity of your baseline cells.
So they can just function optimally. It is an incredibly elegant defense system.
It really is.
So Okay, if I'm understanding this analogy right, if free radicals are like these tiny cellular vandals running around stealing things,
Yeah.
then the anthocyanins are like microscopic security guards. They just step in, hand over what the vandal wants, neutralize the threat, and nothing gets broken.
I love that analogy, yes. The pigment itself is the security detail.
That is wild. Now, if these anthocyanins are stabilizing cells systemically across the entire body, I have to imagine the effect is amplified in organs that consume the most energy and produce the most oxidative waste.
You're exactly right, which leads us directly to the brain.
Yes, because our sources are unequivocal here. They refer to blueberries explicitly as brain food.
And for good reason. The brain is a massive energy sink. It only accounts for about 2% of your body weight, but it consumes roughly 20% of your oxygen and energy.
That is a crazy ratio.
It is. And because it is burning so much fuel, it naturally produces a staggering amount of oxidative exhaust.
All those free radicals we just discussed.
Exactly. The brain is basically an engine running hot all the time.
So the brain desperately needs those electron-donating anthocyanins.
More than almost any other organ, yeah.
But here is where I need to push back on the sources a bit, or at least play devil's advocate.
Okay, go for it.
It's my understanding that getting compounds into the brain is notoriously difficult because of the blood-brain barrier.
Yes, very difficult.
It's this highly selective filter that keeps most circulating compounds out. So are these blueberry pigments actually getting past the gate?
It's a vital question, and honestly, it's what separates blueberries from so many other supposed superfoods out there.
Because a lot of things just don't make it across.
Right. But anthocyanins are among the rare dietary compounds that have been shown to successfully cross the blood-brain barrier.
Wait, really? They actually cross it?
They do. They don't just circulate in the bloodstream, they actively penetrate the brain tissue. In fact, they've been found to accumulate specifically in the hippocampus.
And the hippocampus is the brain center for learning and
Yeah.
memory, right?
Exactly. They bypass the security and go straight to the memory center.
That's incredible. The clinical studies highlighted in our sources suggest that this regular consumption helps delay long-term cognitive decline.
Yes, heavily supported by the data.
But they also mention improving memory and overall function in the short term. One source literally calls it a, quote, daily tune-up for your neurons.
I think that's a perfect phrase for it because it acts on multiple timelines.
So,
Well, long term, you are slowing the degradation of neural tissue by constantly clearing out that oxidative exhaust we talked about.
right, stopping the cellular aging.
Yeah, but in the short term, the daily tune-up aspect anthocyanins actually influence neural signaling.
Neural signaling, like
Yeah.
how the brain cells talk to each other.
Exactly. They help neurons communicate more effectively, and they actually increase neuroplasticity.
Which is the brain's ability to form new connections, adapt, learn new things.
You got it. It makes the brain more adaptable and efficient.
Okay, let's talk dosage, though.
The practical side.
Yeah, because as a natural skeptic, whenever I read these clinical studies, I notice they often use massive, highly concentrated blueberry extracts to achieve these statistically significant results.
That is a very fair point. Researchers like to isolate variables.
Right. So for you listening, if you're just trying to optimize your morning routine for that big meeting tomorrow, am I going to get these neural tune-up benefits from throwing a handful of normal whole berries into my oatmeal, or do I need to be eating 3 pints a day to actually move the needle?
The clinical data is surprisingly encouraging on this front, actually.
Oh, good.
Yeah. While some studies do use concentrated powders, the epidemiological studies, the ones looking at real people eating real diets over long periods of time, they show something different.
What do they show?
They show that just a half cup to 1 full cup of whole blueberries a day is entirely sufficient to provide a measurable physiological effect.
Just a half cup. That's nothing.
It's totally manageable. You don't need a synthesized extract. The whole fruit matrix is incredibly efficient all on its own.
That makes proactive brain health highly accessible. I mean, you aren't just crossing your fingers and hoping you don't decline decades from now.
Right.
You are actively optimizing the neural machinery every single day with a very, very manageable dose.
And, that machinery requires a massive support system. The brain cannot perform that daily tune-up if it isn't receiving an uninterrupted high-pressure supply of oxygen and nutrients.
Which means cognitive function is entirely bottlenecked by cardiovascular function.
Absolutely. If the plumbing is compromised, the brain starves.
Okay, let's look at the third area our sources highlight then, which is the cardiovascular engine.
This is a huge part of the picture.
Beyond the anthocyanins, The sources point to a dense cocktail of nutrients here. We're talking potassium, folate, vitamin C, vitamin B6, and fiber.
We should look specifically at the potassium, actually, because it plays a fascinating role in blood pressure regulation.
Oh, interesting. Not just general heart health.
No, it goes far beyond just quote-unquote being good for the heart. Potassium interacts directly with the endothelial cells.
And those are the cells lining the inside of your blood vessels, correct?
Yes, the inner lining.
So how does that interaction actually work?
It fundamentally counters the effects of sodium.
Okay, because we know sodium raises blood pressure.
Right, sodium causes your blood vessels to constrict. But potassium promotes the release of something called nitric oxide in the endothelium.
Nitric oxide. I've heard bodybuilders talk about that for getting a pump.
Exactly the same mechanism. Nitric oxide signals the smooth muscles in your vessel walls to relax and dilate.
Oh, I see.
So you are actively easing the tension in the system, increasing the diameter of the pipes, and lowering the pressure required to pump blood up to that energy-hungry brain.
That explains the vasodilation perfectly. But the detail in the research that really caught my eye regarding cardiovascular health was a specific phrase.
Which one?
Reduce LDL cholesterol oxidation. I think we need to linger on this because it connects directly back to our discussion about electrons.
Yes. It is the exact same overarching protective mechanism, just applied to a different threat.
Okay, let's break this down. We often hear LDL referred to as the bad cholesterol.
Right, the classic bad guy.
But my understanding is that LDL simply existing in the bloodstream isn't the primary danger.
It's really not.
The catastrophic risk occurs when that LDL particle becomes oxidized. And I want to get away from the old tired metaphor of cholesterol being like, rust building up in a pipe.
I'm so glad you brought that up. The rust analogy is terrible.
Let's talk about what is actually happening in the arterial wall.
Yeah.
Because it's not rust.
No, the rust analogy is flawed because it implies a passive buildup, like gunk just slowly collecting in a drain.
Right.
What actually happens is highly active and highly destructive. When an LDL particle is attacked by a free radical,
Meaning when it loses that electron, it becomes oxidized LDL.
exactly, when that happens, your body no longer recognizes it as a normal nutrient carrier.
Yeah.
Your immune system perceives that oxidized particle as a foreign invader.
Whoa. So instead of a passive rust buildup, oxidized LDL acts more like a biological splinter lodged in the wall of your artery.
That is a much, much more accurate way to conceptualize it. Your immune system senses that splinter and sends white blood cells, specifically macrophages, to attack it.
Like it would a bacteria or a virus.
Exactly. Those macrophages engulf the oxidized LDL, but they can't process it. They literally swell up and die, forming what we call foam cells.
Foam cells. That sounds awful.
It is, and this triggers a massive inflammatory cascade. It is that active, localized inflammation, the immune system's overreaction to the splinter, that actually swells the arterial wall inward.
Ah, and that creates the plaque that blocks blood flow.
Yes. The plaque is an inflammatory immune response, not just passive gunk.
This is where it all clicks together for me.
Right.
By introducing blueberries into your system, those anthocyanins are circulating in the blood. They encounter the free radicals, and they donate an electron before the free radical can steal one from the LDL cholesterol.
Yes. You are neutralizing the threat before the splinter can even form.
That is incredible.
If the LDL doesn't oxidize, it doesn't trigger the macrophages, it doesn't cause the inflammatory cascade, and you don't get the plaque buildup, you just maintain clear, pliable arteries.
It is deeply impressive how interconnected this all is. Like, you consume the anthocyanin, it acts as an electron donor, preventing the oxidized LDL splinter.
Yep.
Which keeps the endothelial lining clear, which allows the potassium to dilate the vessels,
Exactly.
ensuring maximum blood flow reaches the brain, where the anthocyanins have crossed the blood-brain barrier to trigger neuroplasticity and clear out cellular exhaust.
It is a perfectly closed biological loop.
It really is.
And I think it highlights why we cannot view the body as a collection of isolated systems. The vascular system and the neurological system are functionally married, and this one dietary intervention supports both through the exact same chemical mechanism.
Okay, so we have clearly established the profound biological benefits. The mechanisms are airtight.
Mm.
But as an informed consumer, my skepticism naturally flares up regarding the metabolic cost.
The sugar question.
Yes, the sugar question.
Okay.
Because blueberries taste like a dessert. They are inherently sweet.
They are.
And for you listening, if you meticulously track your macros or you manage your metabolic health, the immediate question is always, what is the glycemic catch?
It is the most natural question. We've been trained to believe that sweetness always demands a metabolic toll, usually in the form of an insulin spike and a subsequent energy crash.
Right. So let's look at the nutritional math our sources provide.
The raw data is almost difficult to believe, honestly.
It really is. One whole cup of blueberries provides about 4 grams of dietary fiber for a total of roughly 80 calories.
80 calories for a whole cup.
Now, we all understand the basic premise that fiber slows down digestion and blunts a blood sugar spike. We don't need to rehash the basic avoiding the 2 p.m. slump lecture.
Right, everyone knows fiber is good.
But what I want to know is what makes this specific matrix of fiber and carbohydrates so optimal?
It comes down to the specific ratio and the resulting rate of gastric emptying. Like we said, 80 calories for a whole cup represents an incredibly low energy density. The sugar content is minimal, about 15 grams of naturally occurring sugars, but it is intricately bound within that 4-gram fiber matrix.
So we aren't just talking about a buffer here. We're talking about a highly regulated delivery system.
Exactly. Your digestive tract has to physically dismantle that cellular structure to access the sugars.
It has to work for it.
Yeah. This means the glucose doesn't just flood the bloodstream, which would force the pancreas to aggressively pump out insulin to clear it.
Which causes the crash.
Right. Instead, the specific carbohydrate-to-fiber ratio in a blueberry results in a slow, sustained, remarkably steady trickle of glucose into the blood.
Which brings us right back to cognitive function.
It does.
The brain requires a continuous supply of glucose to operate, but it hates drastic fluctuations.
It hates them.
If you drink a soda, the spike and subsequent crash literally starves the brain of its fuel.
Yeah, it impairs cognitive function.
But this low glycemic trickle from the blueberries seems perfectly calibrated to fuel that baseline neural activity without triggering the metabolic alarm bells.
It perfectly complements the neural tune-up. You are delivering the anthocyanins to clear the oxidative waste while simultaneously providing a perfectly metered fuel source to power the neurons.
All while maintaining complete metabolic stability.
Exactly. There is no sugar trap.
I love that. Wait, so I can literally just eat these straight out of the carton without worrying about a sugar crash later?
You absolutely can.
Okay, the science is validated, the mechanisms are mapped out, and the metabolic math clears inspection. This brings us to the most crucial phase of any deep dive, practical application.
Because knowing all of this is useless if we don't actually integrate it into our daily lives.
Exactly. How do you take this research and apply it today?
The overarching conclusion from the literature is that consistency is far more important than a massive one-time dose.
Why is that?
Because anthocyanins have a relatively short half-life in the bloodstream. They do their job donating electrons and clearing waste, and then they are metabolized and excreted.
So binge eating a massive bowl on Sunday doesn't protect you on Wednesday?
Not at all. You need a continuous supply of those electron donors circulating in the system.
You need a daily dose.
Yes. And the sources offer practical, low-friction ways to build this habit.
Like blending a cup into a post-workout smoothie. That seems highly effective, as exercise naturally generates a spike in oxidative stress, right?
Exactly. The anthocyanins can immediately help neutralize that exercise-induced oxidative exhaust.
Throwing them into morning oatmeal is another easy win. Or, simply keeping a carton in the fridge and eating a handful as a standalone snack.
Because the metabolic math works in your favor, they are one of the few biologically active compounds you can consume freely without worrying about a caloric or glycemic penalty.
The term our sources use, which I think is entirely appropriate given the data, is that blueberries should be viewed as a non-negotiable addition to a daily diet.
I completely agree. They aren't just a garnish for your pancakes, they are fundamental maintenance for your cellular infrastructure.
A non-negotiable habit. Let's take a moment to just pull all of these threads together.
Let's do it.
We started with an unassuming $4 carton of fruit and unlocked a highly sophisticated biological defense mechanism.
We really did.
We examined how the unique molecular structure of anthocyanins allows them to act as stable electron donors, neutralizing free radicals and halting the cellular degradation we call aging.
Right.
We followed those compounds as they crossed the highly restrictive blood-brain barrier to clear neural exhaust and promote plasticity in the memory centers.
And we debunked that passive rust metaphor for cholesterol.
Yes, the splinters.
revealing how those same electron donors prevent the oxidization of LDL, thereby stopping the inflammatory immune response and keeping the vascular system dilated and clear.
And on top of all that, we proved that the precise ratio of fiber to carbohydrates ensures that all of this biological heavy lifting occurs without a metabolic penalty.
Just delivering a steady trickle of glucose to power the brain.
It is an astonishing resume for an 80-calorie serving of fruit.
It really, really is.
Before we sign off, I know you always bring a final, larger perspective to the table. What is the concluding thought you want to leave everyone with as they process all of this?
It actually stems from the very first thing we discussed today.
The color.
Yes, the color. The research is unequivocally clear that the blueberry's immense protective power, its ability to act as this master-level electron donor, is inextricably linked to its deep, opaque blue-purple pigment.
Right.
The color isn't just an aesthetic feature. The color is the chemistry. The pigment is the flavonoid.
So the visual marker is the mechanism.
Yes. And that invites a deeply provocative question about how we navigate nutrition in general.
How so?
Well, we live in an era where we chronically overcomplicate our diets. We have intricate apps, macronutrient trackers, endless rules.
That was exhausting.
But if nature broadcasts its most potent, sophisticated cellular defenses in bright, unmistakable, vibrant colors, could color be the ultimate visual roadmap for human nutrition?
Wow. That reframes the entire experience of walking into a grocery store.
It does.
You aren't just looking at produce, you are looking at a color-coded map to cellular health.
Exactly. I would challenge you listening, as you open your fridge today or walk through the produce aisle tomorrow, to look at your food through that specific lens.
Look for the colors.
Right. If the deep blue of the blueberry signifies a masterclass in neurological and cardiovascular defense, what other vibrant, colorful foods might be hiding their own unique microscopic mechanisms just waiting to be unlocked?
It's a brilliant way to look at it. Sometimes, optimizing a complex system doesn't require a synthesized protocol or a lab-created miracle.
No, it doesn't.
Sometimes, the most highly engineered solution available is already perfectly packaged in a handful of colorful fruit.
Beautifully said.
Thank you for walking through this complex biochemistry with such clarity today.
It was my pleasure.
And to you, listening, we hope you walk away from this deep dive not just informed, but equipped to apply this knowledge immediately. Make those daily electron donors non-negotiable, enjoy your neural tune-up, and we will catch you on the next deep dive. Take care.